Have you ever found yourself daydreaming about retirement at 55? Not retirement at 67, not retirement at 70. I mean really stepping away from the workforce at 55 years old, while you still have plenty of energy, good health, and decades of life ahead of you. If you're nodding your head right now, you're definitely not alone. In fact, whenever retirement comes up, one of the most common questions people ask isn't about how to retire, it's about how early they can do it. And honestly, I understand the appeal. There are days when retirement at 55 sounds absolutely incredible. Imagine waking up without an alarm clock. Imagine having complete control over your schedule. Imagine spending more time with family, traveling, pursuing hobbies, volunteering, or simply enjoying life without the pressure of work hanging over your head. That's a powerful vision. But as attractive as early retirement sounds, there are some important financial realities that deserve careful attention. One of the biggest, Social Security. Because while retiring at 55 may be possible for some people, Social Security doesn't automatically show up the day you leave your job. There's a gap. And understanding that gap could make the difference between a comfortable retirement and one filled with unnecessary stress. So today, let's talk about what really happens to your Social Security benefits if you retire at age 55. Not the myths, not the headlines, not the fear-based stories, just the facts, the opportunities, the trade-offs, and the strategies that can help you make the smartest decision for your future. And first, let's start with something important. If you're genuinely in a position to retire at 55, congratulations. Seriously, that's a remarkable achievement. Most people never reach that point. Many Americans work well into their 60s and even 70s, either because they want to or because they need to. Retiring in your mid-50s generally means you've done a lot of things right. You've probably saved consistently. You've likely made sacrifices. You've spent years building financial discipline, and you've accumulated enough resources to give yourself choices. That deserves recognition. Now, here's where things get interesting. Even if you retire at 55, Social Security doesn't consider you eligible for retirement benefits yet. For most people, the earliest claiming age is 62. That means there's a 7-year window between age 55 and age 62 where Social Security won't be sending you a monthly check. And if you decide to wait beyond 62, that gap becomes even larger. Maybe 8 years, maybe 10, maybe 15 years, depending on your strategy. So the first question becomes very simple. How are you going to fund those years? Because once the paycheck stops, something else has to replace it. For some retirees, the answer may be a pension. Although pensions have become increasingly rare, there are still workers who have access to them. If you're one of those people, that's wonderful. A pension can provide a reliable income stream and reduce pressure on your investment portfolio. Others may have access to retirement accounts that qualify under the Rule of 55. This rule allows certain workers who leave their employer during or after the year they turn 55 to withdraw funds from their employer-sponsored retirement plan without the typical early withdrawal penalties. That can be incredibly valuable. But for many future retirees, neither of those options fully solves the challenge. Instead, they'll rely heavily on savings, investments, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, dividends, interest income, or other assets they've accumulated over time. And this is where planning becomes critical. Because retirement isn't simply about reaching a specific age. It's about ensuring your money can support your lifestyle for potentially 3 or 4 decades. Think about that for a moment. Someone retiring at 55 could realistically spend 30 years or more in retirement. That's a long time. In many cases, retirement may last nearly as long as a person's working career, which means every financial decision matters. Now let's talk about Social Security claiming ages. Most people are familiar with a few key milestones. Age 62 is the earliest age at which retirement benefits generally become available. For individuals born in 1960 or later, full retirement age is 67. And if you choose to delay claiming beyond full retirement age, your benefit continues growing until age 70. After age 70, there is no additional increase for delaying. Those are the major milestones everyone talks about. But it's important to understand something many people overlook. There is nothing magical about ages 62, 67, or 70. You can claim benefits at many different points between those ages. Your benefit simply adjusts based on when you decide to start receiving it. If you claim early, your monthly benefit is reduced. If you wait, your monthly benefit increases. It's a trade-off. You receive smaller payments for a longer period of time or larger payments for a shorter period of time. Neither choice is automatically right or wrong. The best strategy depends on your health, life expectancy, financial situation, family circumstances, and personal goals. But here's the challenge for early retirees. If you retire at 55, every year you delay claiming Social Security means another year your investments need to carry the load. That's where many people begin wrestling with difficult decisions. Should I claim at 62? Should I wait until full retirement age? Should I hold out until 70? There's no universal answer. But understanding how your benefit is calculated can help you make a more informed decision. And this is where Social Security becomes more interesting than many people realize. Social Security doesn't simply look at your final salary before retirement. It doesn't care about your highest single earning year. It doesn't focus exclusively on your last decade of work. Instead, Social Security looks at your 35 highest earning years. Those years become the foundation for calculating your retirement benefit. That number, 35 years, is incredibly important. Because if you have 35 years of earnings, Social Security has a complete record to work with. But if you have fewer than 35 years, that's where things start changing. Let's imagine someone starts working at age 20. They work continuously every year until age 55. That's exactly 35 years of earnings. In that situation, Social Security has a full earnings history available. No missing years, no gaps, no zeros. Everything is accounted for. Now let's consider someone else. Maybe they didn't begin working until later. Maybe they took years away from the workforce to raise children. Maybe they returned to school. Maybe life simply took them on a different path. By age 55, they only have 30 years of earnings history. Social Security still performs the calculation, but those missing 5 years don't simply disappear. They're counted as zeros, and those zeros can have a meaningful impact on future benefits. Think of it this way. Imagine calculating your grade point average. If every class receives a grade except 5 classes that receive zeros, the overall average declines. The same basic concept applies here. Missing earning years lower your average earnings calculation, and lower average earnings typically result in lower Social Security benefits. This doesn't mean early retirement is a mistake, not at all. It simply means understanding the financial consequences before making the decision, because informed decisions are almost always better decisions. Let's walk through an example. Suppose someone earned approximately $50,000 per year over 30 working years. Over those 30 years, they accumulated roughly $1.5 million in total earnings. But Social Security isn't dividing those earnings across 30 years. It's dividing them across 35 years. That means the 5 missing years effectively reduce the average. As a result, the average monthly earnings used in the benefit formula become lower. And when the average becomes lower, the resulting retirement benefit becomes lower as well. Maybe not dramatically, but enough to matter. Potentially hundreds of dollars per month. And over a retirement lasting 20 or 30 years, hundreds of dollars per month can add up to tens of thousands of dollars. That's real money. That's money that could help cover healthcare expenses, travel, housing costs, or simply provide additional financial security. And here's something even more important. Many people focus entirely on when they'll retire, but spend very little time considering how that retirement decision affects future income streams. That's understandable. Retirement feels emotional. It's exciting. It's symbolic. It's the finish line after decades of hard work. But successful retirement planning requires balancing emotions with numbers, dreams with reality, freedom with sustainability. The goal isn't simply to retire early, the goal is to retire confidently, to wake up each morning knowing your financial foundation is strong enough to support the life you've worked so hard to create. And that's why understanding Social Security is so valuable. Because even for wealthy retirees, Social Security often serves as an important layer of financial stability. It's one of the few income sources that continues regardless of market performance, whether stocks rise or fall, whether the economy expands or contracts, whether headlines are optimistic or frightening. Social Security continues providing income. That reliability has value, perhaps more value than many people realize. Because having fewer than 35 years of earnings isn't the only way early retirement can affect your Social Security benefit. There's another factor that often gets overlooked, and that's the opportunity cost of leaving the workforce before your peak earning years are complete. For most people, income doesn't remain flat throughout life. Very few of us earn our highest salaries in our 20s. In fact, most careers follow a fairly predictable pattern. We start out earning modest incomes. We gain experience. We develop skills. We take on more responsibility. We build professional networks. And over time, our earnings tend to increase. Not always in a straight line, not without setbacks, but generally speaking, our highest earning years often occur later in our careers. Think back to your first job. Maybe you were earning $30,000, maybe $40,000, maybe even less. At the time, that paycheck may have felt fantastic. But compared to what you earn today, it might seem tiny. Now imagine you're 55 years old and earning $100,000 annually, or perhaps $150,000, or even more. Those higher income years have tremendous value when it comes to your Social Security calculation. Remember, Social Security only uses your highest 35 earning years. So every additional year of strong earnings has the potential to replace a lower earning year from earlier in your career. And that's powerful. Imagine one of your earliest working years produced earnings of $25,000. Now imagine you're currently earning $120,000. Each year you continue working has the potential to knock one of those lower income years out of the calculation. The result? A higher average earnings figure, and ultimately a larger Social Security benefit. This is one reason some people choose to work longer, even if they technically don't need the income. They're not necessarily working because they have to, they're working because the financial math remains attractive. Every additional year can strengthen their long-term retirement picture. Now, does that mean everyone should keep working? Absolutely not. Money is only one part of the equation. Life matters too. Health matters. Family matters. Time matters. And perhaps most importantly, happiness matters. I've met people who retired early and never regretted it for a second. They traded a slightly larger future Social Security check for years of freedom, travel, relationships, and experiences they couldn't get back. And they considered that trade worth making. I've also met people who worked a few extra years, strengthened their finances, and felt tremendous peace of mind because of it. Neither choice is automatically superior. The best decision is the one that aligns with your values, priorities, and goals. That's why retirement planning is so personal. No calculator can fully account for what makes a meaningful life. Numbers matter, but life isn't lived inside a spreadsheet. Now there's another detail that deserves attention. Social Security doesn't simply look at your raw earnings history. It adjusts many of those earnings for inflation. And this matters more than most people realize. Let's say you earned $40,000 at age 25. Back then, that income may have gone much further than $40,000 would today. The Social Security Administration recognizes this. To make earnings comparable across decades, it applies wage indexing to earnings received before age 60. In simple terms, earlier earnings are adjusted to reflect changes in wage levels over time. This helps create a fairer comparison between earnings from different decades. Without this adjustment, older earnings would appear artificially small. The result is a calculation that more accurately reflects a worker's lifetime contribution to the system. However, earnings received after age 60 are treated differently. Those earnings are generally included at their actual value without wage indexing adjustments. While the technical details can get complicated, the important takeaway is simple. Your earnings history matters, and the timing of those earnings matters, which is why decisions around retirement age deserve thoughtful consideration. Now let's shift our focus from theory to reality. Suppose you're sitting there right now, seriously considering retirement at 55. What questions should you ask yourself? I think the first question is surprisingly straightforward. Can your investments comfortably support you? Notice I didn't say, can they technically support you? I said comfortably. There's a huge difference. Many people build retirement plans that work perfectly under ideal conditions. Perfect market returns, no major healthcare expenses, no unexpected emergencies, no family obligations, no surprises. But life rarely unfolds according to perfect assumptions. Retirement plans need flexibility. They need resilience. They need room for the unexpected. Because unexpected things will happen. Markets will fluctuate. Expenses will appear. Priorities will evolve. The stronger your financial foundation, the easier it becomes to navigate those challenges without anxiety. The second question is this: how much of your retirement income do you expect Social Security to provide? For some households, Social Security represents a relatively small piece of the overall income picture. For others, it's absolutely essential. If Social Security will be responsible for a significant portion of your retirement income, maximizing those benefits may deserve greater consideration. A larger benefit can provide valuable protection against longevity risk, the risk of outliving your assets. Remember, Social Security continues paying as long as you're alive. That's incredibly valuable, especially in an era where people are living longer than previous generations. A retirement lasting 30 years is no longer unusual. In some cases, retirement may last 35 or even 40 years. That's a very long time for investments alone to carry the burden, which is why guaranteed lifetime income sources can play such an important role. The third question is one many people avoid, and yet it's one of the most important. What are you retiring to? Notice I didn't say, what are you retiring from? That's the question most people ask. They're tired of work. They're tired of meetings. They're tired of stress. They're tired of commuting. They're tired of deadlines. Those feelings are understandable. But successful retirement isn't simply about escaping something. It's about moving towards something meaningful. The happiest retirees I've met aren't necessarily the wealthiest. They're the ones with purpose. They have activities they enjoy, relationships they nurture, communities they're involved in, goals they're pursuing, passions they're exploring. Retirement doesn't eliminate the need for purpose. If anything, purpose becomes even more important. Because when work no longer structures your days, you have to create that structure yourself. And that's both a challenge and an opportunity. Now let's talk about a common fear many people have. What if I retire at 55 and later regret it? Honestly, that's not an unreasonable concern. Retirement isn't irreversible. Many retirees return to work. Some return because they need the money. Others return because they miss the engagement, they miss the social interaction, they miss the sense of accomplishment. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, modern retirement is becoming increasingly flexible. Retirement no longer means stopping work forever. For many people, it means working differently. Consulting, freelancing, teaching, mentoring, starting a small business, working part-time, pursuing passion projects, generating supplemental income while maintaining greater freedom. This flexibility can dramatically improve retirement outcomes. It can reduce pressure on investment portfolios. It can delay Social Security claiming. And perhaps most importantly, it can create a smoother transition between full-time employment and complete retirement. That's why I often encourage people to think of retirement as a spectrum rather than a single event. You don't necessarily move from working 50 hours a week to doing nothing overnight. There are countless possibilities in between. And those possibilities can make early retirement much more attainable. Let's also acknowledge something emotional that rarely gets discussed: Many people spend decades chasing retirement. They imagine it solving every problem. They picture endless happiness waiting on the other side. But retirement isn't a magical destination. You still bring yourself with you. Your habits, your mindset, your relationships, your challenges, your strengths. Financial freedom can absolutely improve your quality of life. But fulfillment comes from something deeper. That's why the most successful retirees tend to focus on more than money. They focus on health, relationships, purpose, learning, contribution, growth. Those elements create a rich retirement experience regardless of whether you retire at 55, 62, 67, or 70. And ultimately, that's what this conversation is really about. Not just maximizing Social Security, not just optimizing financial calculations, but creating a life that aligns with your values. Because financial planning isn't about accumulating the largest possible number. It's about building the freedom to live life on your own terms. If retiring at 55 gives you that freedom and you've prepared responsibly, that's wonderful. If working longer brings you fulfillment and strengthens your finances, that's wonderful too. The goal isn't to compare your timeline to someone else's. The goal is to create a retirement plan that works for you, one that allows you to sleep peacefully at night, one that supports the lifestyle you want, one that gives you confidence in both good markets and bad markets, and one that lets you enjoy the years ahead without constantly worrying about money. At the end of the day, Social Security is an important piece of the retirement puzzle, but it's only one piece. Your savings matter. Your investments matter. Your spending habits matter. Your health matters, and your vision for the future matters. So if you're considering retiring at 55, take the time to understand the numbers. Look closely at your earnings history. Review your Social Security projections. Evaluate your investment portfolio. Think carefully about your goals. And most importantly, remember, the retirement isn't simply about reaching a certain age. It's about reaching a level of preparedness that allows you to enjoy the next chapter with confidence. Because after decades of hard work, that's what you truly deserve. A retirement built not on hope, not on guesswork, but on clarity, preparation, and confidence. And if you've done the work, saved consistently, invested wisely, and created a solid plan, retirement at 55 may be more achievable than you think. Just make sure you understand the trade-offs before making the leap. Future you will thank you for it.